1909 was the establishment of the Juvenile Psychopathic Institute. In Chicago, of course. The world's first child guidance clinic. Ethel Drummer provided funding for 5 years. Neurologist William Healy, MD, is its first director, is charged with not only studying the delinquent's biological aspects of brain functioning and IQ, but also delinquents' social factors, attitudes, and motivations. Thus, it was the birthplace of American child and adolescent psychiatry. So you can thank Chicago for the child and adolescent psychiatry. Yes, you can. The Institute of Juvenile Research, because it went on to change names like everything. The Institute of Juvenile Research is a research, demonstration, and training center housed in the Department of Psychiatry, College of Medicine, University of Illinois at Chicago. The Institute has more than 40 faculty members and 65 professional staff members. They address pressing issues such as HIV risk, effective school services, epidemiology of drug abuse, services for families in the child welfare system, and the training of child mental health providers. The Institute also offers psychiatry, clinical services, and training programs in child and adolescent psychiatry, psychology, and social work. And that is where the chief nursing officer, if you didn't see my other 2 videos, you have to watch those before this one. That is where that chief nursing officer that abused and bribed the 16-year-old boy came from. She was oversight. She was part of the oversight, but she also taught forensic nursing there. It's not taught there anymore, but she was one of its teachers. Yeah. She was so full of herself that we had to call her Dr. Barb. Yeah, Dr. Barb. She wasn't a doctor, though, but that's what we had to call her. Talk about somebody who's delusional. We did. That's what we had to call her. She was an NP, but she wasn't, NPs you don't call NPs by doctor. They're not an MD. But no, with her it was different. She was from University of Illinois, Chicago. She was part of the oversight committee looking over the children that have no guardians that are in the system. And she's a criminal mind. But that's of course what that's of course what that university would produce out of their psychiatry department. It's like nobody has a moral compass. And yet at that same university, the biggest nursing contract that Illinois Nurses Association has is there. These people don't care who they trample on because what they are is globalists. They're globalists. This chief nursing officer was probably, just not bright, obviously not bright, but just was some far left radical at one time and then went all in on the whole let's go commie agenda because that's what it was about. And yet, what they did to this boy, it's a criminal mind that does that. They bribed this child. And the thing is that this kid knew it. I mean, he knew it. He knew this system better than I did. All the kids do that are in it. They know that it's a messed up system because this is the same kid I said on a video a long time ago on my YouTube channel that he said to me once. He had said, Bethany, you're unfamiliar. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean? And he said, there's just not people like you. There's not people that give a shit. That's what he said. He's a kid. It's always haunted me that he said that. And that was prior to this happening to him. I mean, here he finds himself in the middle of this mess, okay? And yet he fully knows how the system operates. He knows how messed up it is. like all the kids in that system do. And yet then this stupid chief nurse officer went too far. See, she pushed this kid too far is what she did. She pushed him too far because he knew what she was doing. And the social worker was there and saw it. And she said it was obvious too. But she pushed him too far, which is why then she had to try to bribe him. So all my leadership at that job, from that chief nursing officer to the one below her that was also just a psychopath, that's who they put in these positions. They make sure to put the most mentally deranged people in these leadership positions. But then they tell you, and we've all been made to believe that having all these degrees makes you somehow important. It makes you an expert. I mean, that's how this woman carried herself, calling her Dr. Barb, grandstanding all the while. She's just a criminal mind. Who does that to a child? Who does that? Who does that? And yet nobody understood how this is messed up. And Illinois Nurses Association, the very fact that they never did address what happened to that child, they just deflected, that's how I know they were working with her. And they both came, the Illinois Nurses Association, the nursing union, the biggest contract at Illinois, or University of Illinois at Chicago, and she was on staff there. And she was oversight before she was chief nurse. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. And yet still practices today, is still allowed to practice today because nobody did anything. I said before, I contacted aldermen in that area of where I was working. I contacted the paper, but that didn't do any good because the head of Chicago Trib was on the board of that hospital. So it was easy to cover up all of when you have all these criminal minds that are controlling these institutes and have been for a long time. They're vultures. That's what they are. They're vultures. Just ruining people's lives and not caring. And yet that Dr. Barb is still working. Not there, but she's still practicing, allowed to practice. People probably put their faith and trust in her. And yet she abused a 16-year-old child. And she tried to destroy my career. You know, I don't like to say a whole lot about that, only because, you know, the bigger crime here was what she did to the kid. But that was horrible what they did to me. Because they all knew it wasn't true. They all knew it. But they did know who the abusers in that hospital were. They did. I said before, a lot of these group homes, these DCFS group homes that have system kids in them, they make sure to put criminals as the techs in those places. Not all, but most of them. They knew all these things they accused me of was a lie. And yet Illinois Nurses Association, instead of doing the right thing, instead of being a reputable organization, they just disregarded what that kid wrote. They disregarded improving what that kid said, that nobody gives a shit. Well, justice does come by God's hand. And it will come to every one of them by God's hands.